Of course, it is possible to map with shades of gray without putting any color on the map at all, or any different hues on the map at least. This is one example here which shows average household income in the United States. And I think it does a nice job of displaying what the patterns are. We can see one way they've done that is they've limited the classes, the categories, to only 4 categories. And each one of those is a very distinguishable shade of gray. So I would have very little issue relating, for example, Montana to this lightest shade of gray here, or Oregon to the second darkest shade of gray here. So this is a very effective use of shade of gray, and sometimes that's all you need in order to show patterns. It's just a black and white or a shade of gray type map. However, of course, there's 256 different shades of gray that we could potentially put on a map. You may have more values than that in your attribute table, but that would be the most number of different shades of gray that with 8-bit data that you would be able to put on a map. If you do that, you might get more into a situation like this, where this map on this side is showing some patterns nicely, but by the time you assign a different shade of gray to 256 different categories, you get something that that looks a little washed out or is less easy to interpret. So in general, if we're making maps with polygons where we want to show the differences between the polygons, we would want to limit our number of shades of gray, and we would want to make sure that each of those shades of gray is very distinct from other shades of gray. However, there are times when we want to show every little subtlety and changes of shades of gray, and this is what's being shown in this map. This is a hill shading or relief shading map of the Tobacco Root Mountains of Montana. And what we're trying to do here is capture what the mountains look like in light that's coming in from the northwest in this example here. So we can see that, that in this example here, the northwestern ridges are lighter than the southeastern facing ridges because of the direction the light is coming in and the way that it's hitting the terrain. In this case here, we're seeing lots of subtle variations in shades of gray, and that's really nice because it gives us some of these very subtle patterns that we're seeing throughout the map here. So sometimes it is nice to see all of those variations in shades of gray, just not usually with polygons. With this sort of raster data, especially digital elevation models and hill shaded data, shades of gray can make very effective displays. However, here's an example of a map that started out as polygons, but also shows these variations in shades of gray. In this example here, the variations we're seeing are not the results of hill shading, but they're primarily the results of shadows that are being cast in this sort of 3-dimensional model of how high in population density various counties across the United States are. So in this case, the shades of gray, the variations in grayness of this map, are the result of soft cast shadows onto the rest of the map that gives a 3-dimensional effect. It's similar to hill shading, but it's a slightly different effect. But once again, a nice use of shades of gray in order to make a map.